Welcome to the Minx and Muse podcast. I'm your host, Crimson Minx, creatrix of Minx and Muse, a dark feminine playhouse where we awaken our innate magic through esoerotic dance and witchcraft. Welcome to the portal of enchantment. Hello and welcome to our first podcast of 2025 and my first recording in quite a few months. So real quick to catch you up. Over the past few months since our last episode, I sold and managed the turnover of my physical studio space in Austin. I moved across the country to where I am now, which is coastal North Carolina. I purchased my first home, which I am now currently setting up to be a future retreat property. So look for some esoerotic retreats and certifications and fun offerings coming hopefully sooner than later. This is a lot of work, y'all. But also, so yeah, I've been busy, but I've also been in this liminal space of really trying to personally figure out what's next for my career, for me, for Minx and Muse, for esoeroticism. And I have surrendered to just accepting that I don't really know what that's going to be, but I have some ideas, obviously, and I'm just kind of following what lights me up, what I'm enjoying right now. And that is focusing on our virtual studio and membership, the Minx and Muse Multiverse, which has been so invaluable during this move. As an aside, I live in the middle of nowhere where I don't know anyone, and there's not much cool shit happening here yet. So we're going to talk about community in a little bit, but I absolutely recommend you checking it out if what we do over here resonates and you too live in an area where you're like, there's not much of that kind of fun stuff going on, or maybe you're just a homebody like me also. It has been so essential to have this community to connect with, moving from having an in-person community that was there like 7 days a week, could access any time with the studio. So been consumed with that. I have shared a few times that I'm writing my book and I'm still doing that. Maybe looking to teach locally a little bit, trying to figure that out. But that's not what I want to talk about today. I do want to just instead talk about, I just want to give you a little catch up to where we are. But what I do want to talk today about is 2025. Projections, perhaps some personal projections, some forecasting, some thoughts. So I am not an oracle. I am not an astrologer. I am not a trend or cycle forecaster. However, I very much enjoy studying all of those things. And so, of course, these thoughts are going to be informed by those studies. But also, I think a lot of these are just my personal energetic thoughts or feelings of where I'm feeling like things are headed. And I was trying to sum up what I felt 2025 was going to be. And the two phrases that came to mind were expect the unexpected and control is an illusion. And I mean, starting literally January 1st, it's almost cheating because we're 2 weeks into January now, and so much has happened. Starting with the travesty in New Orleans on New Year's Day, which, as an aside, my friend Kitty is a policewoman in the French Quarter during that time, on Bourbon Street, and she, thank God, was okay. But I was like, "Ooh, this is how we starting off 2025." And up to unfortunate events in Las Vegas and now the LA fires, which my heart goes out to everyone. For those who do not know, I used to live in LA. That's where esoeroticism was birthed, and we've been in touch with our community there, feeling so blessed that everyone's okay. But I hate to say this, but part of me, and this is not to diminish or dismiss what has happened so far, and this is just in America, we're not even talking about internationally. I could almost see us in December looking back and being like, oh my gosh, remember that the New Orleans attack? Remember the LA fires? Not because we forgot and because fuck that shit, we've moved on with our lives, but because so many other things have happened that it's like just one of many things that 2025 brought us. And so yeah, let's start with that. Expect the unexpected. So a lot of this is just me recognizing that there's so many shakeups going on around us, and combined with a lot of discontent, but also this is, I'm a witch. A lot of my lens through which I see the world is through astrology. And I'm sure if you follow astrology, all of the outer planets are switching signs this year. And what that means is that they're all moving through the anaretic degree, that 29th final degree of a sign before entering, the following sign, 0 degrees of the next sign. And during that time, we experience a lot of kind of chaos and upheaval. And these outer planets are generational, long-term changing planets. And so that combined with just I think it's causing it, but just seeing a lot of shifts that are just happening on the microcosm, combined with just studying other cycles. Like there's this thing called the fourth turning, which is a cycle that is part of like a greater cycle system on American history. That if you want to go through the rabbit hole, look up the fourth turning, but we're apparently entering that. I know in a lot of Eastern cultures, there's different cycles ending and beginning. It is, to me, I'm feeling Tower card, I'm feeling Death card, and I'm feeling Judgment card, Phoenix rising from the ashes, but from some upheaval that leads to an ending. And here's what I'm going to say with that. That does not have to be a bad thing. I feel like I'm going to keep returning to this is why having practices and tools that you don't just depend on when things get shitty, but that you use on a regular basis to manage your nervous system, your energy, your emotions, having that as a regular practice and not just something that you turn to sporadically is essential. Because I think we're so conditioned to think, oh, something's changing, something's ending, something's dying. That's bad. What if not? What if it's exactly what you've been wishing for? And I know I am an eternal optimist, and I think it helps me move through life. I'm a Sag moon, so I tend to look on the but what if side of things. So at no point do I want today's discussion to be construed as bypassing or anything like that. However, what I have learned during my 44 plus years on this planet is that a lot of times when I think things aren't working out for me, they are working out for me. And I do really see that happening. Hopefully, we have some where we won't get into politics or anything, but I'm like, what if what I think was a loss was a win? Let's get down to it. Government, economics, money systems, religious and spiritual systems, all of these things could be very much shaken up over the next year or two. And tell me that you have not at some point or perhaps persistently complained about these things, the capitalistic system, the inefficient or inhumane government, the systems that we feel like are oppressive or judgmental or instilling shame. They don't change by staying the same, if that makes sense. And so perhaps what we're looking towards, people have been saying maybe government systems will change to be more locally focused. Maybe we're going to move into a digital monetary system. Maybe we are going to see a resurgence in sovereign spirituality, things like that. And that comes from old systems being challenged. And I think we're going to see that. And I don't think it has to be scary, which is going to, I'm going to try not to be all over the place here, but I don't have notes. I'm just freewheeling this. So what I think the number one thing is a shift into community. So you've heard of the Age of Aquarius. Many have believed we've been in the Age of Aquarius. Some are believing that this is the time that it's officially happening. Whatever. We're round and about. And Aquarius is all about community, connecting with other. And I think this influence is going to be more potent than maybe we're thinking about or giving credit to. We saw with these fires in LA that community was able to respond quicker than government. We have seen that a lot of people are falling away from giving all a grand mass of people just almost worshiping one. This is why I see an end to, like, because to me, I get so mad when people misuse the word community. Community suggests that there is engagement, that people know each other's name, that people have voices. A community is not someone talking to a crowd of thousands, if not millions of people and dictating to them what they should believe and what they should do, while they just in silence, tapped into that one person and not concerned about their own engagement with the people around them or with the thoughts themselves. And that could change society, because if you think about it, we've been in this time where there is like the gurus, the celebrities, the people, the leaders in charge who everyone mindlessly follows, and I think that's falling away. I cannot stand when people talk about developing community because and have not done one themselves, because as someone who has built a community, it's hard as shit. I've seen people selling courses on building community who I've been, engaged with them before and part of their like other teachings and platforms, and they are they are a headpiece just talking to other people, not engaging with anyone. I saw someone on Instagram selling like a program on how to build community, and she was following one person on that Instagram account, and that was herself. I was like, oh, death to that. Sorry, that was a little tangent, but this is going to speak to celebrity culture. I think this is like a better illustration that we can all understand. So for years, celebrity culture was all about, and I don't fucking get it, but this one person was in a movie or are conventionally beautiful, and so we follow them. We're going to buy that perfume because Brad Pitt is in the ad, or Angelina Jolie or whoever is in that ad, so I need that perfume. I care what they had for lunch. I want to see pictures of them pumping their own gas. Celebrities, they're just like us. I mean, I'm sure you're feeling it. Who the fuck cares anymore? And there is this death to the celebrity culture where people aren't willing to commit their money, their time, their energy to someone who's just a headpiece, to someone who has no substance, who isn't engaging back with them. Love and light to them, but I think the Kardashians and that ilk of celebrity in general is falling away, because what people are really seeking now is authentic connection, having a voice and being part of something, And I want to say choosing people that they follow or view as a person of influence that they have commonality with beyond that, oh, this is the person that you go to because they have all the answers, or I want to be just like them. I think instead, do you notice that? Like the end of celebrity culture, this idea that like people aren't willing to follow celebrities or do what they say. Now it's like we laugh when they throw together these half-hearted, totally empty, like, you know, speeches about or efforts to like save the children. And we're like, oh my gosh, you're totally getting paid for this. Stop. And I think in terms of like, what does this look like in terms of spirituality? I think that instead of having like one grand guru or one preacher or spiritual guide that has, thousands, if not millions of followers, teaching this one thing, people are going to find smaller guides where they can where they agree with them from their level of character, from their values. Maybe, they like the same local sports team. They really like, that their creative expression, whatever. People are seeking connection on an authentic level, and we're not willing to just give our power and, like I said, our money, our energy, our time away to some person who doesn't even know or care that we exist. That it took me a long time to get to that, and that's going to change things. That's why local politics, I think, are going to get way more important. I think it's why we are all going to be called at some point to show up as greater leaders in general, because there's not just going to be one or two. We're all going to be leaders in one way or another, and communities are going to be essential for support. But we're not going to be, and also to grow and to expand together, to learn, to express. But it's not going to be like that one community. It's not going to be a situation where it's like I give my entire life over to this church community or this political community or this, even just like perhaps even like local or family community. I think we're going to recognize we need multiple communities. So yes, your local village or city or town, but also like your fitness community, also your spiritual community. Also perhaps you have a hobby. So communities around your hobbies. And I think that's going to be really healthy. I said it before that smaller communities can react and support quicker than larger because it's obviously just less to mobilize. And I don't think it's a disappearance of like, big corporations or governments or anything in general. I think that, they serve their purpose. Absolutely. I always use the example. Here's an example of how community can come into play. With the existence of larger, say, corporations. So I love this story. So we had a student at our studio at Minx and Muse and Vespertine now in Austin, and she was losing her visa to be in the country. And she was sharing that in a class, because in our classes at Vespertine now, like we don't just come into class and just get started. We always open circle and commune with each other, so we can all connect. And it came up during one of these circles, and another student said, I work for this corporation and we do what you do and I'm going to help you. And so she ended up helping her find a job in this corporation that was able to sponsor her visa so she could stay in the country. And so, as a small business owner, that's not something I couldn't do. I couldn't sponsor someone's visa. I couldn't help them on that level. So I want to be clear that we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. There are corporations can do some amazing things. I can't pay you $50,000 to paint a mural on the side of my building, but Coca-Cola can. So I always try to like defend like these bigger systems. They're great for, you know, people who to even work within, who perhaps don't have the bandwidth or the interest to be creating something on their own, or where they can provide like greater benefits than perhaps smaller businesses. So I digress. But I do think that these corporations and bigger systems are going to have to adjust to the more community mindedness of the people. They're going to, and the desire for authenticity, and for equitability, and for them to actually care about them, and not just like industrial age, like come in, do this shit for us and don't ask questions and we'll give you some peanuts. I don't think I think the corporations and the bigger systems are going to have to shift to the culture. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. And, you know, even say, you know, big things happen in the world, where you are experiencing some kind of like emotional response. Maybe your town community or maybe your fitness community aren't the ones to go to, but having that spiritual community like we have in the multiverse, that's who you're going to want to get with at that time. So you feel like you have someone that can, or a group of people that you can spiritually connect with, to make meaning of something, to be seen, to process together. So I'm going to ask you, do you know the names of your neighbors? I think rugged individualism is fading away just as fast as, you know, I'm going to just keep calling it guru culture, but you know, that encompasses a lot of things. You know, do you know your neighbors? Do you, when you go to your yoga class, you know, every week, do you say hello to the person next to you? If you teach the yoga class, you take the time to learn people's names. Have you found a group of people who share spiritual beliefs that you can do ritual together, or talk about, you know, the endless potentiality of spirit, you know? And that could be a church. I'm not saying it can't be religion, but I could see a fall of mega churches. Absolutely. I could see a return to local community churches. I'm not anti-religion, even though I personally don't adhere to dogmatic, you know, practices. I want to have a little more say in what I believe and how I practice, but that's not for everyone. And so these are things I think we're really going to be called to ask ourselves and to step into. And I think it's going to make for a better world. I also, let's see, what else am I projecting? Ooh, that got, that's my thoughts on community. So hopefully I don't want to kind of, I hate the expression, but beat a dead horse. But moving on, I think another thing that is really, well, let's talk about technology and social media, because I think it maybe ties together with community. And it's going to lead into another thought I have. Do y'all just feel like, you know, technology is, and if you study it at all, the technological innovations that we've had in the past 10 years are so exponentially more expansive than the 1,000 years before it. It's unbelievable. And what I think that has resulted in is us learning some lessons from that quick ascent, right? When you grow too fast, you get those growing pains. And what have we learned from the growing pains? Well, that we can abuse the technology. We question, where do we want to draw the line between technology and humanity? Where is technology a really positive influence in our life, and where is it freaking unhealthy and detrimental? Have you noticed a lot of people are questioning and adjusting how they engage with social media? So I think a lot of people are dropping off completely. I hear a lot of gripes around people like the algorithm and not seeing posts from people that they No. I could see there being a return to people just wanting to use social media for socialness versus entertainment, because that's really what it comes down to. People go on social media for escapism and entertainment. There's no social aspect. Um, Not really. I mean, there was. I do, I miss the days of MySpace and being able to just like look at someone's page and see what they were doing, and I haven't seen that person since high school or whatever. I prune my Facebook pretty well. I have a hidden Facebook that I really use for being able to stay connected with people that I grew up with. And I am very careful not to click on things to get, like things that aren't people I know. I want it to remain my one social connection to my youth and growing up. And as a business owner, it's obviously complicated because I use social media to try to sell people on my shit. And a lot of people do that. And, that's kind of, I'll admit that takes away. I think I try to always post with integrity and make it fun. And I give value in terms of either, educating or, inspiring or whatever. But it's just become a dumpster fire of essentially what rises to the top are these very short and quick entertainment pieces that, you know, I think we will all say, "Oh, I've learned stuff from social media," and that's true. But I think it's even beyond that now. I think our attention spans are fucked up. Like they've done studies on this. I'm not making this up, that people cannot read like they used to. People cannot pay attention like they used to because social media has conditioned us to catch our attention within the first second or 2 seconds. And if not, we're going to scroll away. So they've learned how to do that so that people will immediately engage. And so we expect that in the rest of our life. They've done studies around literally the ability for younger people to read books that us older folks, and even older than me, were standard when we were in school. Even in college levels, they can't read them anymore, and it's fucking up our brain. And I think people are becoming aware of that. And I know that TikTok next week is supposed to be banned. I'm not on TikTok. I've recognized my addictive tendencies towards scrolling and being on a screen, and I just made the decision, despite business advice that I should be on it, that I'm just not going to be on it. And so, I have an account that I would upload things to sometimes, and I don't even do that anymore because I just didn't want to engage in that. It's not all about the money all the time. Sometimes it's about our mental state. And so, but that's interesting of how that's going to change, because people really rely on that. And I'm not saying it's all bad. I mean, I think I had a conversation with a friend the other day. She's a big TikTok lover, and she was, really preaching the virtues of it and the ability to use it in healthy ways to get animals and pets adopted and to disseminate information, in anything from wartime to fires, and environmental disasters. And so I definitely not saying that's not a thing. It's I think a great platform for thought leadership and for people to share ideas. And I'm curious, like I said, I'm not an oracle. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think that in general, all of social media, people are getting sick of the bullshit. People are getting sick of all of the information. People are exhausted. People are drained. People are turning into zombies. Their brain doesn't work. They can't read fucking books. People are recognizing that. So I see people leaving social media, but I could also see social media shifting, perhaps a return to being more social. So remember I said before, don't always assume the worst, and don't assume when things aren't working out that you don't accept that what you see as a loss is actually not a win, and expect the unexpected. I mean, here's an example with TikTok. Let's just say it is banned, and perhaps because of that, there is a social network created that doesn't rely on the Google or Apple platforms, because that's where it's going to be banned. That is truly independent, and perhaps it doesn't have an algorithm, or the algorithm is less capitalistically driven, and it's, perhaps it's more long form. I don't know. Maybe people are, maybe it can create a whole new, more healthy social system, or maybe it does fall away and social falls away and we return to writing letters to each other. I don't know. Personally, I'll share, I'm more interested in long form. That's why I was like, I need to record a podcast, to all 5 people who listen to this. Thank you. To me, it's, I have lost any delusion that, you know, the multiverse is going to be filled with thousands of people, that this podcast is going to get like millions of views. And it's not of interest to me, because I know that millions of people don't align with the way that I personally think, or that our community can serve our community. I like the multiverse we want more people in it. It can definitely handle more people, but it's never going to get huge where I'm not going to know your name and people aren't going to recognize each other on calls and not have conversations within, our secret society group with each other and connect. That's never going to happen, because I don't see that's the way that the world is going, and I'm not interested in that. But what I am interested in is more long form content, like listening to podcasts, such as this. I like my attention span to be a little longer, but also I can usually, like, I know no one's sitting here staring at the screen right now. That would be so weird. You are listening to this while you're driving, or while you're cleaning the house, or while you're making lunch. And that's how I do it. And I do feel like the information I get that way is a lot more fulfilling. And I feel like I get a lot more, like, here's a total random thing. I listen to interior design podcasts and YouTubes like I'm a fucking interior designer. I'm not. I just really love that world. I like listening to the business of it. I like listening to the creativity behind it. I love listening to the history of it. And to me, that is more valuable consumption, versus scrolling. And I need a hit. It does not, I don't get addicted. When I'm done, I turn it off. I am, have been, I don't listen, I don't go on my phone in the morning anymore. Because I see, how there's been mornings where all of a sudden I think I'm just checking email, and then let me open the Instagram. And then all of a sudden I fucking scrolled for like a half hour, and that's hours up. That's minutes and a half hour I'll never get back. I think people are questioning all of that, and they recognize the dopamine hit and like, is this healthy? I feel like I'm on drugs right now. I just need one more. So I think that in terms of like technology and social media, there's going to be shifts. And I think it's going to be based on like a healthy questioning of, is this good for me? Is this addictive? Is this escapism? Or is this truly nurturing and feeding my soul? And what does it look like for me? Just because because I just don't see a world where we all just say fuck off technology and we just like hug trees all day and just meet in person at cafes. I don't think that's a reality or realistic. But I think we are finally going to get to the point where we are questioning, are we engaging in healthy ways, and what is a healthy way to engage, and when do I need to put the shit down? And something that I think has fatigued us a lot from social media is the information consumption. That's the shadow side of Age of Aquarius. Aquarius is an air sign, and it's technology and innovation and information. And raise your hand if you have a little information fatigue. I hear a lot of people say, I've learned so much on TikTok, and I think that's amazing. But I think what we're stepping into now is the question, but are you applying it? How does that affect your life? Embodiment is the next thing I want to talk about. And we're getting towards the end, I promise. Maybe. But this is something, and maybe this is just a personal projection and something that is near and dear to my heart. But I think it's something that we need to be aware of, and hopefully will be more of a center of conversation as technology and the dissemination of information increases and increases over time, is that, what about embodiment? What about being in our body? And what about applying these things that we're learning about. Whether you are consuming a lot of history content, are you allowing that to consider how that is impacting your current timeline? Or are you just like not learning lessons from history? Are you listening to a lot of tarot videos, but not learning to pull tarot for yourself, and just taking what is told to you instead of using that as a source of inspiration, but getting back into your own personal intuition and creating your own perspective on things? I think what we're realizing is that there is no right answer for most things. It could be this, or it could be this, or it is like, it's all this, but there's a million perspectives on how to get to that point. I think there are ultimate truths, but I do not think that there's one way that we all get to that ultimate truth. But I think there's a difference between being spoon-fed something and just taking it at face value versus then using that to integrate, to embody, to express yourself and determine, is that my truth? Or is that just utter bullshit? Or is there a way that I can alter it to a way that is applicable to my life, applies to my life, or something that I even care about? You know what I mean? I think in the past it was so easy to say, this means that, and everyone would be like writing down, this means that, yes. This is what we're playing with in the multiverse this year, is creating an embodied grimoire where I don't tell you the truth. We discuss kind of established, suggested truths, but then we embody it to create our own personal connection to things. And we embody it by doing it. So again, going back to like, you're learning all of these things, but are you applying it? You took a course on money management. Are you managing your money now? Or is it just it's just staying up here and, in the old brain vault? You understand the benefits of sensual dance and movement, which is kind of like the information that I like to disseminate. But are you freaking doing it to actually gain the benefits? Do you understand something or understand something? Do you know all about the benefits of having a positive mindset, but like you have a shitty mindset? You know what I mean? So I think there is this shift into like discussion around embodiment, and that wisdom isn't everything. The knowledge isn't wisdom. The knowledge of something doesn't mean that you are wiser. Okay. Taking in information doesn't make you smart. It's the smart, the intelligence, the wisdom, that all comes from the application, the embodiment. You can only truly, I always say, you understand something by conceptualizing about it. You understand something by actually embodying it and applying it in your life and experiencing it. Okay. We cannot separate, we can't be floating heads. In the future is what we're going to learn, or we can really be taken advantage of or left behind, or it's all just a wasted effort in collecting the information in the first place. And this kind of ties back into what I mentioned before, which is the importance of having consistency in your practices and in your rituals, and not just turning to them in dire times. We always say in magic, you don't just do magic or connect with spirits when you need something. Life is magic. These are ongoing practices and rituals, and engagement and embodiment is what makes us true practitioners. And so that is going to be a reminder, I think, for the year ahead. So I'm going to start wrapping it up, because we talked about, we expect the unexpected. Control is an illusion. We have a lot of endings and new beginnings. And through all of that, what I have been preaching about for years, the having an embodiment practice, doing something to manage your emotions, processing your emotions, working on, managing your nervous system, which is not just through listening to a podcast, not just listening to this, but actually doing the practices, is going to be so essential for 2025. and beyond, because these tools have been so invaluable. I can say this because I do it. And when I was moving and I did not have my movement practice and I didn't have my morning ritual, I was fucking off. My energy was all over the place. My emotions were all over the place. My nervous system was a wreck. And when I was finally able to return to doing my dance and movement, doing my morning rituals, consistently communing with my community, I'm back. I feel like myself again. So truly making sure in this Aquarian age that we are not just learning the things and concepting the things, but we're really doing the things, practicing the things, embodying the things, is going to be essential, and it's going to be so necessary to keep ourselves in a good, healthy state when, the unexpected happens, when things are beyond our control. And so I want to wrap it up with my final, I would say we did the projections and the perhaps forecasting, and I want to end with some advice. And that is, throughout life, remember to prioritize joy, to be open to humor, not in a way to bypass, not in a way to belittle or dismiss some tragic or tough situations, not experience all of the emotions, because this is, join the multiverse if you need weekly practices to express your emotions and to move through energy and things like that. I'm not fucking bypassing that shit at all. And maybe that's why finding joy and humor in things is, I think, something that's more accessible to me now than it used to be. And that is because I'm also doing the regular practices to look at my current state of emotions and energy and what's tough and what I need to really address and experience and feel and integrate. So I'm not holding on to those longer than need to be. But at the end of the day, I love Bill Hicks, the comedian Bill Hicks. He's amazing. And he has this bit where, you got to look it up, but I'll put it in the notes, actually. If you go into the show notes, I'm going to put it in there. But it ends with, it's just a ride. And it's just a ride. And we have to take a step back and see the greater picture, see the humor in it all, see the beauty in life, just as, when something tragic is happening, something beautiful is happening, and we can't just be one-sided, and we can't just lose ourselves in things that are going on in the world around us. It doesn't mean we don't engage and we don't support, but it also means that we don't crawl into a ball, unable to engage with the world around us because we fail to see the good in humanity and the beauty in the world. Humor, man. The hilarity in this fact that we are just on this big rock, just in the universe, spinning around the sun, just what the fuck. It's all right. And so, as a reminder, seek joy. Prioritize things that make you happy. Allow yourself to see the humor in things, because these are going to be totally essential and are ways to feel good. And it's not a bad thing to feel good. We love prioritizing pleasure, blah, blah, blah. But truly, all of these things we talked about today should be leading us to a greater state of joy and love. So with that, thank you for listening to my first babbling podcast of 2025. If any way you can communicate with me, if you have any thoughts after this, I would love to hear it. This has been living in the the brain stew for a while, so I'm glad to have been able to somehow convey it, and hopefully it was a little thought-provoking and perhaps connected to some ways you were feeling and inspired you to perhaps move forward in a way that feels more empowering and healthy. So with that, I love you, stay in your magic, and I'll see you soon. Bye. Thank you for joining me for the Minx and Muse podcast.
You can find show notes and learn more about the studio at www.minxandmuse.com. As a reminder, it is our birthright to transform, expand, and safely exist as sensual, conscious, and empowered